ऑन कर देलु Now, good evening and welcome to Vidyakaran online classes. As I promised that after discussing the concept of Unit 5, literary essays and criticism, we will do some MCQs. MCQs, what we have done already, like preface to Shakespeare, preface to the lyrical ballads, then the study of poetry and tradition and the individual talent. So, each charita which we had completed or which we have completed. So, we will discuss the MCQs. As most of you had said that our understanding is 70 or 80%, MCQ है 100% है. Okay. So, are you all ready? Should we start? देखो गोटे अच्छी महासंगम, like we have offers. ये पणा संक्रांति अच्छी, so we have a 10% offer. We have discounts. So try now. So avail of the discounts. अच्छा. महाभिषप संक्रांति ओडिया नववर्ष special offer, there is a 10% off. So as such the course fees are very less. सेथरे भी तमे 10% पाउच. So effort of so many people, एत्ते लोकंकर ब्रेन काम करछि करिकि डेवलप करा होछि, ताकू पुनी तमे एत्ते थ्रो अवे प्राइस रे you are getting it. And any queries you have, anything, any feedback or any queries you want to make, or your problems, whatever you have. So तमन को सुविधा दिया जायछि हेल्पलाइन नंबर 8093073340 8093073341. A data helpline number. Office hour is always from 10 AM to 7 PM. Anytime within that stipulated hour you can contact. Okay. So let's get started. But then first question, first lot of questions, they are from preface to Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson's seminal literary masterpiece, that is preface to Shakespeare. Now, which of the following is true to preface to Shakespeare? This is TREU, true, and this is R, preface to Shakespeare. A, it is an essay by Dr. Samuel Johnson. B, it was first published in 1765. C, it sheds genuine light. It sheds genuine light on Shakespeare's merits and demerits. Merits and demerits. D, all these are true. Go answer ta ko. Deri jama karibani, fatafat kale we can cover a lot of questions. Go. Which of the following is true to the preface to Shakespeare of Samuel Johnson? It is an essay by Dr. Samuel Johnson. Yes, absolutely true. Right. It was first published in 1765. Absolutely true. C, it sheds. Sheds means it throws light, genuine light on Shakespeare's merits and demerits. It is also true, because in preface to Shakespeare, Samuel Johnson, I have already finished the content part. In the preface to Shakespeare, Johnson got a proposal that I will publish an edition of Shakespeare by subscription. मते टंका दियो से पैसा रे मु मोर सब जिंस जोगाड़ करी I will publish. And Shakespeare का बहुत adulterated edition बाहरुची. I want to be as perfect as possible, as true to the original text of Shakespeare. एटा से कहि कि गोटे एडवर्टाइजमेंट देले and many people started paying him money. Best पैसा पाइले and he said that I will finish it in 3 years time. किंतु तांकु 3 years एटु करि पारलेनी. So what happened? It took him तापर से तो गल्ला से करि पारलेनी. So there was a poet called Charles Churchill. So he said, so everybody paid you money. So पैसा गला पड़े. Why are you not doing it? Then Johnson started working on it. And finally, 8 वर्ष 9 years लगेगा एटा को कंप्लीट करे. 9 years तांको लगेगा कंप्लीट करे. So ultimately, it was published in 1765. 1756 advertisement, 1765 रे published है. So in the preface to Shakespeare, it was divided into 2 parts. प्रथम part रहेला Johnson deals with Shakespeare's merits and demerits. Why Shakespeare is great? What are the merits of Shakespeare to be such a great dramatist and a great artist? And second, what are the methods he has used, the editorial tools he has used while editing the plays of Shakespeare? It has dita part. So option D is the right answer. All these are true. Option D is the right answer. Which of the following is true to Samuel Johnson's preface to Shakespeare? TR Samuel Johnson's preface to Shakespeare. A. It took 9 years to complete the task. The preface has 2 parts. It is one of the milestones in the history of English literary criticism. D. All of these. Okay. Option D is the right answer because the entire preface Johnson took 9 years. The preface has 2 parts. Yes, first part hochi the demerits and demerits Shakespeare as an artist. The second part is the editorial tools which Johnson adopted to edit the works, to bring out the edition of Shakespeare. It is one of the milestones in the history of English literary criticism. One of the finest. Apology of Poesy asla kara Philip Sidney kara. Johnson kara real masterly. Johnson was an intellectual na. Ito Dr. Johnson ko hai. Tango ko the dictionary Johnson because he brought out the dictionary, English dictionary. Which of the following criteria does Dr. Johnson suggest to justify the value of work of art? Again, criteria, Dr. Johnson, work of art. So, which of the following criteria does Dr. Johnson suggest to justify the value of work of art? What should be the value of any piece of writing? Work of art mane kon? Any piece of writing, say poem te hitau, prose, play te hitau, novel te hitau, kimba painting hitau, any work of art. See, work of art ta kono? Kon tar criteria? जो criteria को नहीं कि तमें कहिबो कि any work of art or any literary or any value of work of art is valuable or not, is great or not. So, what kono? A. Duration, comparison. This is comparison. C. Persistence. D. All of these. All of these. A question of which of the following criteria does Dr. Johnson suggest to justify the value of work of art? को criteria, को parameter, को factor को तमें नबो judge गोटे work of art को judge करिवो जे whether the work of art is great or not, valuable or not. Duration, comparison, persistence, all of these. Option D is the right answer because gote duration mane gote work of art 15th century lekha hichi eporjanto lok mane bi taku padhuchanti enjoy korchanti. So duration is important. Kete din banchi rahichi, how much it has withstood the test of time. प्रति टाइम रे प्रति एज रे विभिन्न लोक विभिन्न राइटर विभिन्न सेंचुरी आसिकरी ताकू देखी ताकर कंपैरिजन करछन्ति एवं एंड दे हैव फेल्ट दैट दिस इज रियली ग्रेट, दिस इज रियली वेरी वेरी गुड. जेमति होमवर्क रे इलियाड, वर्जिल के एनियड, दांते, these writers even in the 21st century people are still reading them. That means se lok mane aji porjanto tanka work ta immortal he jachi, amar he jachi. It is continuing for hundreds of years. Seta konti duration, time period. Tapara comparison kan prati stage loko compare kari jaichen. Persistence out ette comparison sabu satwe in spite of it se persist karichi, continue kari chalichi. That is, so all of these is the right answer. So Johnson ko, according to Johnson, एटा हला तीनटा क्राइटेरिया, ड्यूरेशन, कंपैरिजन, परसिस्टेंस. ए तीनटा क्राइटेरिया तुम देखिबो जे प्रकृति रे केते दिन रहिला. जेमति आमे फॉर एग्जांपल आमे देखो गोटे गीत, यू पीपल आर नाउ वेरी वेरी कीन, हम एज रो पिला माने दिन रात 24 घंटा काने थई बोलछन गीत सुनछन. गीत गोटे अछि सेही समय जते बेले से फिल्म ते चलला से गीतटा जेंति गोटे कि कोलावेरी डी गोटे गीत आसन कोलावेरी डी तापर से कौन योहनार श्रीलंकन सिंगर ने योहनार गीत से कौन गोटे गोटे पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम रे से गुडा को पॉपुलर हे जाय, समस्त जहा को देखो से कोलावेरी डी गाइला तापर फुस पळेला आउ के कोलावेरी डी कथा कहूना ता माने कोन सेटा टेम्पररी, इट इज सामयिक, जस्ट टेम्पररी से समय चलला बस लोक पागला वाला गाई चलले किंतु आउ 10 वर्ष पर तार कोई वैल्यू ही नहीं. तो दे आर जस्ट टेम्पररीली पॉपुलर. तांकर लॉन्जिविटी जीरो, तांकर लॉन्जिविटी जीरो. As Samuel Johnson thinks, the representation of dash many and pleases long. The question ta kon mo jane paruni. General nature, particular manners, printing epoch of typing ta, fanciful invention, none of these. According to Samuel Johnson, as Samuel Johnson thinks that the representation of dash will please many and will please long. मैंने कौन सुनो क्वेश्चन तक मैं तुम बुझे दूँ. What is Johnson trying to say? आमर प्रीफेस टू शेक्सपियर से कहले कि को जिनसटा लोकों को सब अपील कर, पीपल विल लोकों को अपील करिवो अब बहुत दिन धरिक अपील करिवो, तांका अपील टा कमिवो नहीं. को जिनसटा he says ए चैप्टर की general nature, particular manners, fanciful invention, none of these. It is option A, general nature. अच्छा ए टर्म गुड़ा को होची कौन? Preface to Shakespeare रे जॉनसन निजे लिखिचन चला. What is general nature? Shakespeare on why Shakespeare को जो मेरिट गुड़ा को जॉनसन enumerate कले, list कले. When Johnson started listing the merits of Shakespeare, से कहले जे अन्य सब आर्टिस्ट mostly they concentrated on love. They concentrated on love. Love is a passion. Is one of the passions. And semane they used to project life एमती भाव देखेबे जे तुम ऑर्डिनरी लाइफ है सेमती कैरेक्टर लोक देखिबो नहीं. बट शेक्सपियर को टाइम शेक्सपियर कौन कले ना, he projected the general nature of life, human life, general nature. तमे जनरल नेचर माने कौन माने जो परिस्थिति रे जो सिचुएशन रे गोटे तांकर गोटे प्लेयर गोटे कैरेक्टर गोटे डायलॉग कहला बा बिहेव कला से कैरेक्टर तमे भी से जगह रे थिले एज ह्यूमन बीइंग्स तमे भी से जगह रे थिले से परिस्थिति रे थिले ठीक सेमिति बिहेव करथंत ठीक सेमिति कथा कही थांत try to understand what I'm saying what Johnson was saying that is what he said he represented general nature जो नेचर जो पैशन जो बिहेवियर जोटा कि सारा पृथ्वी समस्त में समान irrespective of class culture geographical territory whether a person is in the United States or a person is in Denmark or a person is in Germany or a person is in India or in Vietnam or in South Korea or in Japan जो जगह जो लोग after all समस्त होचंदी human beings and समस्तंकर ए इमोशन समस्त अच्छी लव अच्छी एनवी अच्छी एंगर अच्छी रिवेंज अच्छी डिसअपॉइंटमेंट अच्छी फ्रस्ट्रेशन अच्छी एगुड़ाक विभिन्न प्रकार पैशन प्रति लोक भीतर भर्ती होती विभिन्न प्रकार पैशन तो शेक्सपियर से भाया जनरल लोक को देखी मैं जो जनरल लोक जहाँ समस्त नेचर हूँ सामान सो ही मिरर्स लाइफ ही मिरर्स व्हाट हिज सिचुएशन हिज 16th century England he mirrored the true nature of human beings the passion of human beings like envy love envy jealousy suspicion सेटा कोन एबे लोकंकर अछि आगुर नथिला ना आगुर थिला लोकंकर एंगर आप्रति ईर्षा भाव आगुर थिला एबे नाही एटा सब बेले रहइबो because this is very very natural to human beings कहा पाखरे बेसी परिमाण अच्छी कहा पाखरे कम अच्छी कि समस्त भीतर अच्छी एंड शेक्सपियर का ग्रेटनेस है ही मिरर्ड से गोटाक जिनस को तांका प्ले गुड़ाक देखेले द जनरल नेचर ऑफ ह्यूमन बीइंग तेणु समान परिस्थिति तमे भी एबे रही भी तमे भी सेमती बिहेव करी थांत that is Shakespeare's greatness he reflected general nature of human beings in his plays in for Johnson Shakespeare's play आउ तो आईटा हूँ सब आर बोले धरनीय जमती मैप देखला बेले कही थाए ब्राउन इज माउंटेन ब्लू इज रिवर्स एंड ओशंस मुझे एटा धरनीय ए एंटायर पे दिस वन इज आर ओके Johnson Shakespeare's real power lies in A system of civil B economical prudence progress of his fable money story and tenor of his dialogues this is tenor of his dialogues D elsewhere Shakespeare's real power lies Shakespeare का real power टा कोठी अछि mind you this is criticism एटा स्टोरी नॉवेल नुहे कि जे तमे गपटे पढुछ स्टोरी से गपटा स्टोरी टा खाली पढुछ दिस इज क्रिटिसिज्म जने क्रिटिकली तके एनालिसिस करूछ जे व्हाई सच ए पर्सन बिकेम ग्रेट एंड व्हाई सच ए पर्सन डिड नॉट बिकम कोटा आंसर कला बिला भुनादेवी मिश्र विभूषिता त्रिपाठी all these are true I'm talking about this question. Dr. Johnson Shakespeare's का real power lies where? The real power is option C. Progress of his fable and the tenor of his dialogues. That means Shakespeare as a dramatist. तांकर ओरिजिनालिटी नथिला किछि काहे ना बिकॉज ये अन्य प्लूटार्क ए मन सब आनी थिले आइडियाज आनी थिले आउ मोस्टली ग्रीक और लैटिन पढ़ी नथिले विशेष तो ग्रीक और लैटिन वर्ड्स गुड़ाक वाज ट्रांसलेटेड इन इंग्लिश जहाँ से पाउथले ताको पढ़ुथिले आउ तांकर प्लॉट गुड़ाक एते स्ट्रांग नथिला प्लॉट गुड़ाक लूज थिला तांकर प्लॉट ऊपर एते कंट्रोल नथिला शेक्सपियर कर किंतु व्हाट शेक्सपियर पर जीनियस एठी कि से जहाटा पढ़ुथिले ताको तांको तांकर कंटेम्पोरारी तांकर जो लाइफ शेक्सपियर को सही समय इंग्लैंड रो लाइफ जहाँ थिला से लोक जमते थिले तो एमती भाव लगे माने डेवलप करके लिखिले which appeal to everybody right from the lower class the peasants the mechanics to the royal people the court people सब category लोक enjoyed his plays तेणु तांकर हैला character and story शेक्सपियर का strong point होची मोस्ट character dialogue story तेणु तांकर कोन भेला शेक्सपियर कर character और dialogue और character story line तार ठीक स्ट्रेट एटा एकदम सिस्टमैटिकली डेवलप करे द प्रोग्रेस ऑफ हिज फेबल फेबल माने स्टोरी एंड द टेनर ऑफ हिज डायलॉग एंड द डायलॉग्स बिकॉज ही वाज अ ड्रामाटिस्ट तेणु ड्रामार मेन जिनस कौन डायलॉग्स तेणु एंड द डायलॉग्स रियल पावर लाइज इन हिज द प्रोग्रेस हाउ द स्टोरी डेवलप्स एंड द डायलॉग्स ऑप्शन सी इज द राइट आंसर exact line अच्छी preface to Shakespeare Johnson का Samuel Johnson calls Dash every stage of universal agent of every stage the universal agent in every stage in every country समस्तिंकर universal passion थिला love A love B rivalry C envy D ambition it was love when all the other people in the world सेमाने जल गोटे passion को धरले love गोटे एंटागनिस्ट थी गोटे गोटे प्रोटागनिस्ट थी गोटे हिरोइन थी हीरो थी गोटे विलेन थी मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग होथिबो एंड अल्टीमेटली एवरीथिंग एंड्स इन अ ट्रेजेडी इट एंड्स इन डेथ सॉरो एंड इन कॉमेडी इट एंड्स इन हैप्पीनेस दी भलिया आइदर प्योर ट्रेजेडी लिखुले एनसेलो ग्रीक और लैटिन ड्रामाटिस्ट माने और प्योर कॉमेडी लिखुले किंतु शेक्सपियर कर कौन सी प्ले कॉमेडी हो वेदर इट इज कॉमेडी और वेदर इट इज ट्रेजेडी यू विल नेवर फाइंड प्योर कॉमेडी और प्योर ट्रेजेडी दे आर ऑल ट्रेजिक कॉमेडीज मिक्सचर ऑफ ट्रेजेडी एंड कॉमेडी दैट इज व्हाई जॉनसन सेड दैट Shakespeare's plays are neither comedies nor tragedies but it is of a distinct variety type. And what is that distinct type? That distinct type is a mixture of tragedy and comedy. जोटा का हमें कहूँ and Shakespeare को सेट होची ग्रेटनेस अन्य राइटर्स आगुरु किए पूरा कॉमेडी लिखुला किंबा किए पूरा ट्रेजेडी लिखुला जेमती एस्केलस फादर ऑफ ग्रीक ट्रेजेडी सी कौन एस्केलस खाली ट्रेजेडी उपर मास्टरी करते खाली ट्रेजेडी लिखुले अन्य माने कॉमेडी लिखुले कॉमेडी उपर मास्टरी करते किंतु शेक्सपियर गोटे प्ले रे से पांचटा एक्ट रे 5 एक्ट्स भितर ही कुड मिक्स बोथ ट्रेजेडी एंड कॉमेडी दैट मीन्स तांकर ट्रेजेडी उपर जति कंट्रोल थिला कॉमेडी उपर भी सति कंट्रोल थिला so he was a versatile person मन आमे जेंती गोटे कैरेक्टर आमे गोटे आमे जेंती फॉर एग्जांपल आमे जानि नो दैट तमे जतो प्रियदर्शन मूवी जाउछ देखिया पे हिंदी सिनेमा देखछ तो समस्त बॉलीवुड फिल्म्स whenever you are going to watch a प्रियदर्शन मूवी और a डेविड धावन मूवी आमे कोन नोछु भाबी नोछु कॉमेडी हेतिबो ए जो प्रियदर्शन मूवी रे एकदम टिपिकल जिंस अछि यदि शॉक मारला जण को लाइन नहीं कि समस्त रे समस्त शॉक मारिबो सब मारिबो मारिबो लाइन नहीं कि समस्त मारिबो प्रियदर्शन मूवी रे एडा थाए तो गुडे जो कोनते नहीं फैंटास्टिक जिंस गोटे देखाए so it's full of laughter then you go to watch a प्रियदर्शन movie you enjoy it तुम जे हेरा फेरी देख फिर हेरा फेरी देख सब गोटे प्रकार थाए you know it's a Priyadarshan movie mane khali majja thibo and you go on and you will laugh. Tragedy tame jano particular character achanti semane kebal tragedy lekhibe or serious film karanti. So they have acquired the skill to make serious play or serious films. Into Shakespeare, both the tragedy comedy equal skill रे लिखुथिले दैट गोटे प्ले रे प्रति प्ले रे एक्ट 1 रु एक्ट 5 भितरे सेतिक समय भितरे गोटे कंपोजिशन पर गोटे प्ले भितरे से ट्रेजेडी कॉमेडी तांकर मिक्स थे आ काहे की मिक्स थला बिकॉज़ शेक्सपियर just rejected or he just ignored the classical unity of time, place and action. The three dramatic unities amar achi, unity of time, unity of place and unity of action. Johnson Shakespeare करे ना ancient days e चलुथला वर्तमान present जिनस रे गोटे चलिबो नै हबनी. So he was a dramatist, he had his own production house and he had his own theatre. So he was a businessman also. He was a writer, an artist, actor as well as a businessman. Then tankar business career achi and tankar काम हला कोन दीटा जिंस instruction देबी moral lessons देबी plus pleasure देबी किंतु तांकर प्राइमरी ऑब्जेक्टिव थिला टू गिव प्लेजर लोक आछंते आराम से खुशी करी जानतो. तो मोर प्ले को लोकों को खुशी करे पे जहाँ जहाँ दरकार सब वर्गर लोक सब कैटेगरी लोकों को जहाँ जहाँ दरकार मु सेही अनुसार करी मो प्ले एंड इट वाज थंडरिंग सक्सेस ईच एंड एवरी प्ले. So Shakespeare wrote, so Shakespeare felt that life is a mixture of tragedy and comedy. कहा लाइफ रे तुमको जन्म होबा ठो मला मृत्यु till your death खाली जीवन दुख करी 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 जाय ना. have you ever seen a person whose life is full even gote dino dekho even take one day of your life? Do you think the day begins with happiness till you sleep? Some problem kichi thibo kichole bad news thibo that will make you depressed for minimum 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So life is a combination of both tragedy and comedy. So since Shakespeare was trying to reflect life, human nature, so how can it be all tragedy or it will be all comedy? So it is a mixture of tragedy and comedy. Which of the following is true to the characters of Shakespeare? They are genuine progeny. They are genuine progeny of humanity. B, they are all distinct from each other. C, they are basically the human beings. They are basically the human beings. And all these are true. Option D is the right answer, because all the characters of Shakespeare, they are genuine. They are product of human beings. They are all human beings. They are all distinct from each other. तांको से universal passion से देखौछंती. Jealousy, anger, love, indecisiveness, ambition, एगुड़ा सब से देखौछंती. Yet they are also individualized. They are not types. Types of individual माने कोन जानछो तो? Types होची character of two types of characters are there. जोटा कि जोटा से EM Foster कहथिले flat character, round character. Flat character two dimensional. से character किसी changes आसे नहीं. They are types. माने जेमती तुम देखिबो बॉलीवुड लोक मु पढ़े समस्त विषय जे खाली कॉमेडी कर से खाली कह मन कर ना आई विल नॉट डू, गिव मी अदर रोल्स. आई डोंट वांट टू बी टाइप्ड जे आकु ये कॉमेडी छड़ा किछि कर परिबन. आई डोंट वांट टू बी लेबल्ड एज दैट. आई वांट टू बी वर्सटाइल. आई वांट टू डू कॉमेडी, ट्रेजेडी, एवरीथिंग. आज अमिताभ बच्चन एते बड़ लेजेंड केमती हला, शाहरुख खान एते बड़ लेजेंड केमती हला, बिकॉज He did comedy, he did tragedy, he acted as a villain in Dar. I think Dar was this villain hitala. Semti Amitabh Bachchan comedy karchi, tragedy karchi, sabu prakar karichi. That is why they have become great. That is why they have become legends. Semiti amar jenti cricket re je test cricket, one day 50 over cricket, one day ODIs or T20 सबुथरे खेली पारुची. That means a red ball is जतिके efficient, white ball भी सतिके efficient. So they are called great. So Virat Kohli is called great. के white ball specialist, के red ball specialist. But he can play in all formats. That's why he is great. So Shakespearean characters, Shakespeare looks into every aspect of life. And Shakespeare's characters, they are like other human beings, and they represent human emotion, type bholya, and they are also individuals. As Dr. Johnson thinks, Shakespeare's plays in real sense are A. comedies, B. tragedies, C. pastoral plays, A. D. a distinct species. Option D, jota just the purvuru kahichi. They are neither comedies nor tragedies, but of a distinct type, that is tragicomedies. As Johnson thinks, Shakespeare wrote dash with toil and study. A. comedies, B. tragedies, C. historical plays, D. Roman plays. Dr. Johnson दी answer कहते जे शेक्सपियर एकदम फ्लॉलेसली पूरा फ्लूइड पूरा फुल फ्लो रे बेसी किसी परिश्रम न करी कॉमेडी गुड़ा भारी सुंदर लिखती. बट इन ट्रेजेडीज शेक्सपियर हैज टू थिंक, शेक्सपियर हैज टू वर्क हार्ड फॉर दैट इन ट्रेजेडीज. सो शेक्सपियर पे कॉमेडी होची वेरी वेरी नेचुरल, ट्रेजेडी होची स्लाइटली डिफिकल्ट. So he wrote dash with toil and study. Toil माने hard work. So hard work कोथरे करछन्ते, tragedy करछन्ते. Comedy पे तांकर hard work दरकार नथला. तांका भलिया genius. Comedy माने 2 घंटा भीतर फुट गोटे act पूरा लिखि देबे. किंतु tragedy को गोटे act लिखिया को तांको 4 घंटा 5 घंटा लागिबो. काहेना से बहुत भाबी के लिखिबे. Understand? So it is option B, tragedies. Who wrote as Shakespeare has no heroes, his scenes are occupied only by men who act and speak as the leader thinks that he should, as the reader thinks that he should himself have spoken or acted on the same occasion. A. Ben Jonson, B. John Dryden, C. Dr. Johnson, D. S.T. Coleridge. It is Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson, in preface to the Shakespeare, he said that in Shakespeare, he has no heroes. कई hero और protagonist सेमती कही परिबनी. जो लोक माने अछंती ऑर्डिनरी जो लोक माने सेठी act करछंती, the way they have behaved or responded to particular situations, से समान जिनस आमे भी सही जगह रे थिले समान response देई थांतु, similar way रे आमे behave करी थांतु. So Shakespeare hero is not different from others. He is like one among us. That is what precisely Dr. Johnson tries to say. Shakespeare has preserved dash. A. unity of place, B. unity of action, C. unity of time, all 3 unities. Dr. Johnson, Shakespeare, classical drama, जो 3 dramatic unity of time, unity of place, unity of action, ये 3टा थिला, ताको Shakespeare मान लेनी. Shakespeare तांको time रे जहाँ दरकार थिला, he was writing plays according to the demand of his time, the requirement of his age. So Johnson कहले, I will defend Shakespeare. मु Shakespeare को defend करिवे matter है, काहे की ना Shakespeare wrote historical plays also. So historical plays है तमे unity of time केमती रखिबो. 24 घंटा unity of time माने कोन 24 घंटा भीतर सब हबो. unity of place माने गोटे जगह भीतर सब हबो. So historical plays it is impossible, and historical plays the king becomes a king, then the king will have problems. So the entire life ta dekhuchi na, to 24 घंटा भीतर सब देखिबो केमती. So unity of time is impossible to maintain in historical plays. So raja te jodi raja kon aji ए country गला काली से country का आजी ए country against war कला से country की गला वो battle रे. So unity of place रहिबो ने. But Shakespeare plot would occur, so he has maintained the unity of action. So unity of action is what you are saying. Upon go book as it is illa OPSC sorry, what you are writing I don't understand. Anyway, forget it. I can't give like what you are saying. So Shakespeare maintained that unity of plot. That plot ta thikla exact where a plot ra beginning middle end thila, अब plot ta regularly develop करी करी end पर्यंत जाओ, justify होतला end. So Shakespeare has preserved the unity of action. Dr. Johnson Shakespeare was the genius of dash: A. Tragedy, B. Comedy, C. Roman plays, D. Historical plays. So he was the genius of comedy. जोटा कि in tragedy कौन हुए ना, tragedy रे से जॉनसन कहते शेक्सपियर टिके एक्स्ट्रा परिश्रम करके लिखुले, हार्ड वर्क एंड टॉयल दरकार थिला, किंतु कॉमेडी टा तांको जेमती तांकर पे नेचुरल आस्थला, एकदम फ्लुएंटली से कॉमेडी लिखुले. So he was a genius in comedy and less comedy ru टिके less थिला tragedy. Which of the following fault has Dr. Johnson found out with Shakespeare? एटा गला शेक्सपियर को merits कहि चलले, बतन demerits को आसा. He sacrifices virtue for convenience. Selection से थरे. His plots are loosely formed. C. His diction is marked by unnecessary pomp. All these. Option D is the right answer. Option D is the right answer because Johnson Shakespeare को fault कौन बाहर कर चुका. Johnson said that Shakespeare, great genius, great writer, किंतु ब्रिटिश लोग तांको fault लिखी नथले एते. मु किंतु तांको पूरा पूरी objectively analysis करिबी, तांको merits करिबी, तांको demerits करिबी, because Shakespeare को demerits को एते लोग कहि नांती. So he said that Shakespeare करा he sacrifices virtue for convenience. तांको पे virtue टा important वे, pleasure is important. जोठी दरकार virtue टा को से pleasure दवा जगह रे यदि virtue को compromise करिया पड़े, Shakespeare will do that. तांकर primary aim थिला to provide pleasure to the audience. Naturally, he was a businessman. He was doing business. He was writing plays to be staged in the Globe Theatre so that people will come, ticket किनिबे, पैसा करिबे. So से खाली charity करनो था. He was a businessman. So at times से तांकर virtue को भी से sacrifice कर देबे for pleasure. Second, his plots are loose and Shakespeare was never had a control over plots. Then the plots could have loose. This is true. His diction is marked by unnecessary pomp. माने तांका जो language, diction is language. तांका language रे पूरा unnecessarily माने literary ornamental थिला, लोगों को please करिया पे, जोड़ा के दरकार न था. These are the faults of Shakespeare according to Johnson. So option D is the right answer. All of these. Next, which of the following? What actually? Now let's come to the lyrical ballads. It is the preface to the. This is preface to the lyrical ballads. Okay. Now preface to Shakespeare, which I had done the content. But preface to Shakespeare pura sarla pare MCQ kala pare clear hela na nahi? Tell me. Then I will go to preface to the lyrical ballads. Jaha tikke doubts thila understanding 100% hela na nahi? Tell me. Write on the chat box, then I will go to the preface to the lyrical ballads. Well, you should respond. Because literary criticism को तुमको बुझिवा को हेले टेक्स्ट गुड़ा भी जानी था दरकार. फुलिश लोक भलिया बोका भलिया खाली वर्कआउट करिगले के हबनी केबे. I have tried my best jette lucidly in the simplest possible term. I have explained preface to Shakespeare, the content को पूरा पढ़ेची बुझेची. Anyway, now let's come to the preface to the lyrical ballads, which was written by William Wordsworth. Now the preface to the lyrical ballads was first published in 1798, in beginning of the Romantic age. Lyrical ballads was first published in 1798, which consisted 23 poems. 4 poems were written by Coleridge, 19 poems were written by Wordsworth. So the lyrical ballads of first poem thila Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And the 23rd last poem ta hochi lines composed upon Tintern Abbey. Tintern Abbey thila last poem. 23rd poem hochi Tintern Abbey. First poem hochi Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Coleridge. Now, when they started writing the lyrical ballads, this kind of a poetry, both Wordsworth and Coleridge, they experimented, they wrote. Ta purburu lokman ornamental heroic couplet Dryden Pope sab lakhusile 18th century poets. So suddenly gote nuwa type ro poem ette simple language re khali emotion, imagination, feelings rahichi. So how people are going to accept it, that is to be seen. So his friends, they suggested that देखो तुम तो पोएम टा लिखि देलो, तुम से एक्सप्लेनेशन टा गोटे दरकार. प्रीफेस टा होची तांकर गोटे एक्सप्लेनेशन कि तमे काहे की लिखिलो, what is the objective, the purpose of writing such kind of poetry. You have to give an explanation to the readers. So that is how originally it was decided that Coleridge will write the preface, but anyway Coleridge did not write the preface, and it was William Wordsworth who wrote the preface to the lyrical ballads in the second edition, and the second edition was published in 1800. So which of the following is true to the lyrical ballads? A, it is a collection of poems. Yes, very good. B, it is a joint work of William Wordsworth and S.T. Coleridge. Absolutely true. Its publication ushered the Romantic age in English poetry. Absolutely true. In English literature, all these are true. Option D is the right answer. It is a collection of poems written by both Wordsworth and Coleridge, and the very publication ushered a new kind of poetry in English literature. Lyrical ballads was first published in dash A 1798, B 1800, C 1802, D 1803. It was first published in 1790. Lyrical ballads. Which of the following is true to preface to the lyrical ballads? A, it is an essay by William Wordsworth, right? It was first it first appeared in the second edition of the lyrical ballads. C, it was extended in the third edition. Absolutely right. So option D is the right answer. All these are true because the preface of the preface to the lyrical ballads, it was written by Wordsworth. Preface to Wordsworth lecture. Second, it prathama second edition 1800 asala. तापरे extended edition गला 1802 the third edition को पढ़ेला. So all these are true. Which of the following is known as the manifesto of the Romantic movement? A. Biographia Literaria, the Pursuits of Literature. C. Preface to the Lyrical Ballads. D. None of the above. Option C. The preface to the Lyrical Ballads, it is known as the Romantic Manifesto. जेमिति हमारा manifesto, election manifesto. हमें this is what we have done, this is what we are going to do. Exactly, it is just like a romantic manifesto, where Wordsworth is saying that 18th century jo artificial language, the artificial and the logic and the reason, there was no passion in that. Emotion or feeling or emotion, passion, they were not there in the 18th century. So we are going to write a kind of a poetry which encompass the entire humanity, all section of the society, and we will write poetry in a language really used by these ordinary rustics in the countryside. The language really spoken by the ordinary common people, common folk. And a poet is a man speaking to men. And there is no difference between the language of prose and the language of poetry. Wordsworth said in the preface to the Lyrical Ballads. Now, which of the following advised, who of the following advised Wordsworth to write a preface to the poems? It is the friends. As I said earlier, option D is the right answer. Which of the following was the objective of writing poems and lyrical ballads? To choose A, to choose incidents from the common life. B, to describe incidents in the language of men. C, to impart coloring of imagination. Impart coloring of imagination to incidents. D, to make incidents interesting by tracing in them the primary laws of nature. All these, option D is the right answer. That the incidents, what was the objective of lyrical ballads? Wordsworth said that the objective of lyrical ballads to choose incidents from the common life. Common लोकों life को नहीं कि common लोको है वे hero heroine मो poem रा. Second, to describe incidents in a language of men, to impart coloring imagination to incidents. So, to describe incidents, जो incident, whether it is solitary reaper, or it is a leech gatherer, or a person going to the walking in the highlands, everything will be used in a common man's language. 18th century, the kind of a poetry जो language writers माने लिखुथिले, common लोको ताको बुझी पारु नथिले. तेणु common लोको ताको connect करि पारु नथिले. It was meant for the high society people. So Wordsworth said, because the second French Revolution टाको देखिचंती, सेठी आसिके liberty, fraternity, equality कथा बुझचंती. So he said that let us make everybody, let us include everybody. तेणु गरीब लोक कथा भी आमे लिखिबा. A poor man, I will write poetry in his language and about him. No need of writing about an aristocrat, a nobleman, or a rape of or the arable farmer in rape of the lock. I don't want to write about those people. I will write about these poor people who are living in the villages, very, very close to nature. Those who are not touched or adulterated by the city life. City life रे जो artificiality अच्छी, से लोको से जिन्स वाला तांको touch करिनी, से लोको रंगो. So those people are very pure. So I want to write about those people and in their language. So how will it become poetry? सेथिरे किछिटा हमर imagination टाको टिके imagination रा color दे दबा. Then that will become a beautiful poem. The poems in the lyrical ballads describe dash, upper class, B, artificial London, C, rustic and humble, none of these. This is option C. They dealt with the rustic and humble people who live in the villages. The poems and lyrical ballads give importance to dash, A, situations, B, actions, C, reality, D, emotions. Obviously emotion. Romantic poetry is emotion and imagination. 18th century poetry is reason. Poems and lyrical ballads, the humble and rustic life is chosen for, in such life, the essential passion of the heart find better soil to attain maturity. The characters are larger. The characters speak a plainer and more emphatic language. All these poems and lyrical ballads, the humble and rustic life is chosen for what? Because in such life, the essential passion of the heart find better soil to attain maturity. The characters are larger to restraint. The characters speak a plainer and more emphatic language, and all these. It is this. This is the most appropriate answer. That in such life, the essential passion of the heart find better soil to attain maturity. Mane sei jo loko mane, these rustics, these poor peasants, those who live in villages in countrysides, they live amidst nature. They live in the lap of nature, in close proximity with nature. So se loko manang pakhare konosi artificiality, hypocrisy kichi touch karini. So se lokonkor life bhitar rahile, your passion, your heart will find a better soil to grow, to become mature. As Wordsworth thinks in the preface to the preface, works of Shakespeare and Milton are driven into neglect by. So he says that in the preface to the lyrical ballads, he says, the works of Milton and Shakespeare are driven into neglect. Mane tanko poem guda ko neglect karaichi kahinki? Because A, because of frantic novels, B, sickly and stupid German tragedies, C, idle and extravagant stories in verse, all these. Option D is the right answer. Kahinki semanku loko neglect kale na because gote frantic novels asila, stupid German tragedies asthala, au idle extravagant story. Extravagant gote ekdam larger than life story. Jame jo kon mane jote ekdam unbelievable jo story gudako. Sei bhala stories se sama asuthila, for which loko mane Shakespeare or Milton ko neglect karte. Who of the following is the head of the fellows who attempted to widen the separation between prose and poetry? It is Dr. Samuel Johnson. Because Samuel Johnson said that, once, what is answer? If you look at the development of poetry, Elizabethan poetry, Elizabethan poetry, absolute imagination, feeling, passion ran high during the Elizabethan period. Now, 18th to 17th century, John Donne had called unification sensibility, thought and emotion fused. Then it became dissociation of sensibility. Mane thought or feeling alga hegale. Romantic 18th century, only reason, thought, feeling roilani. Romantic poetry, only feeling, thought roilani, reason roilani. So T.S. Eliot said there was dissociation of sensibility. Now, so amar Shakespeare kon kahitile, but like Wordsworth said that there is no difference between language of prose and language of. But whereas in the 18th century, the language of prose and the language of poetry were different. You can't say, because poetry has, they say poetry has a literariness, has a poetic quality. But Wordsworth said the language of poetry and the language of prose, there is no difference. So it is Samuel Johnson. So which of the following is true to the study of poetry? Seta gala, lyrical ballads gala. Lyrical ballads clear hela na nai kuah? Because I want to finish today. Lyrical ballads hela na nai, complete hela na nai? Anyway, which of the following is true to the study of poetry? A, it is an essay by Matthew Arnold. B, it was published in 1888. C, it was originally published as a general introduction to T.H. Ward's anthology. T.H. Ward's anthology of the English poets, and all these are true. Option D is the right answer, because the study of poetry is an essay written by Matthew Arnold, and it was first published as a general introduction to T.H. Ward's anthology of the English poets. The anthology of general introduction to study of poetry. Next, to Matthew Arnold, the future of dash is immense. The future of dash is immense. A, novel. B, drama. C, poetry. D, short story. Matthew Arnold, study of poetry, खाली poetry कथा कहचंती. तने आखि बुझी के आंसर करिवो ऑप्शन सी. That the future of poetry is great, is immense. And poetry माने को any ordinary आजे बाजे poetry no. The poetry which has high seriousness, the content is very rich. How? Which will stand the test of time. So सेभली high standard रो poetry लिखिया गले. रीडर भी सेति की हाई स्टैंडर्ड रो हबा दरकार. द रीडर शुड बी ऑफ दैट हाई स्टैंडर्ड से भलिया पोएट्री को बुझीबा पाई. सो रीडर शुड improve their standard, increase their standard to appreciate such great poetry, because poetry is greater than philosophy, is greater than history. So for Matthew Arnold, the future of poetry is immense, and poetry has a very high destiny. As Matthew Arnold thinks, there is a need of dash to conceive the high destiny of poetry. So it is option A, the standard for poetry. The high destiny, if you want to place poetry at a higher level, then the standard of the poetry should be of that higher level. Which of the following is the peculiarity of the best poetry? A, power of forming, power of sustaining, power of delighting. D, all these. Option D is the right answer. Good best poetry, highest standard of poetry will console us, will sustain us, and will delight us. It will instruct, it will give us pleasure, and it will change our personality. So, power of forming, power of sustaining, power of delighting, all these. For Matthew Arnold, dash estimate of poetry is the only true estimate. A, real estimate. B, historical estimate. C, personal estimate. D, none of these. So, while judging poetry, what's Matthew Arnold kon kahitile? So there are three estimates: historical estimates, personal estimate, and real estimate. Historical estimate टाको से कहले जे real estimate and historical estimate and personal estimate, they should be discounted. ताको तमे reject करो. काहे कि से reason कहछे. Historical estimate रे कोन होची ना गोटे particular poem, गोटे poetry or a poet गोटे particular period रे लिखि छथि. So आमे तो historical कौन देखा जाओ, आमे काहे कि सेटो रेफर करछि, because that developed, that helped in the progress of the language or in the development of the language. It contributed to the development of poetry. सेही हिसाब रे तमे से poem टाको consider करछो. Not that that poem is absolutely great or absolutely brilliant. तार सेही feature पाई you are taking the name of that poem. So historical estimate is not safe to analyze a poem. So historical estimate देखला बेले तुमका देखिया पड़िबो जे how far they have withstood the test of time. प्रति जगह से comparison. So Arnold गोटे method कहले जे तमे कंपेयर करिवो जो पोएम टा को नौच पुराना पोएट को नियो दांते नियो होमर नियो वर्जिल नियो कंपेयर करो ये को स्टैंडर्ड लिखछन हाई सीरियसनेस लैंग्वेज केमती मैचिंग करछु ना नहीं ए जो पोएम टा तमे धरिच तार से स्टैंडर्ड अछि ना सिंपली कंपेयर करो यू कंपेयर इट एंड देन एनालाइज इट कंपेयर करिवो एनालिसिस करिवो सेति पे मैथ्यू आर्नल्ड gave us a touchstone method गोटे touchstone method देले सही मेथड रे कंपैरिजन करिवो एनालिसिस करिवो जदी से एनालिसिस एतर पास कला इट्स अ क्लासिक पोएम द पर्सन इज अ क्लासिक पोएट इक्वल टू शेक्सपियर मिल्टन दांते एंड होमर एंड वर्जिल जदी न कला देन से लेवल से नुए सो ही सेड सो हिस्टोरिकल एस्टिमेट को हमें रिजेक्ट करिवा नेक्स्ट ही सेड पर्सनल एस्टिमेट होची कोन ना तमरो लाइक्स और डिसलाइक्स जो लोक मन को अक्षय कुमार भल लगे से ब्लाइंडली कहबे अक्षय कुमार सब सिनेमा भल सेते बेले तमरो जजमेंट ता प्रेजुडिस्ड बायस्ड जजमेंट इट इज बेस्ड ऑन योर पर्सनल लाइक्स एंड डिसलाइक्स से जगह रे तमे ऑब्जेक्टिवली इम्पार्शियली न्यूट्रली कोनोसी जिंस को जज करि परिबनी personal estimate भी से कहते you have to they are all fallacious so the real estimate तांको पे the third estimate which is the real estimate so real estimate is the only true estimate to judge poetry as Matthew Arnold thinks the historical estimate of poetry is likely to affect the reader's judgment when he is dealing with dash poets A ancient B modern grave D humorous yes ancient poets historical estimate will affect your judgment of when you are dealing with ancient poets personal estimate ta karibo when you are dealing with modern poets so it's option A is the right answer to Matthew Arnold dash estimate of poetry is fallacious A historical B personal C both D none of them both he said both historical and personal they are fallacious the real estimate is the third one the real estimate is the only genuine estimate so option is B C is both he says both historical and personal estimates are fallacious not to be trusted which of the following estimate of poetry is not propounded by Matthew Arnold A historical B personal C real D biographical कोटा करनांती को एटा कहला which of the following estimate of poetry is not propounded or not advocated by Matthew Arnold A historical B personal C real D biographical is not it's very simple Arnold तीनटा estimate कहचंती historical personal real तो biographical नहीं option D is the right answer which of the following method has been propounded by Matthew Arnold to distinguish genuine poetry from the worthless creation genuine ta fake ru kemti tame differentiate karibo so it is the touchstone method A real estimate B historical estimate C personal estimate D touchstone method is the touchstone so say touchstone method ta dharikiri compare karibo take a few lines from your poem two poem contemporary poet ku nobo तांको compare करिवो होमर वर्जिल दांते जेकोनी जन को शेक्सपियर होंतु मिल्टन होंतु जस्ट तांकर तीन चारटा लाइन को नियो आंकर तीन चारटा लाइन को नियो compare the lines and analyze जदि if it stands up to expectation great poetry it doesn't stand, then worthless poetry. So it is the touchstone method. Coffee as Matthew Arnold cites, the English poetry in its origin is connected to the poetry of what? This is France, Greece, Rome, Italy. English poetry in its origin is connected to the poetry of what? English poetry. देखा कौन लोग आंसर? No, don't try to find out the answer from Google. तुम जदि एई स्टेज रे Google को देखि आरंभ करिवो, केबे निजे प्रिपेयर करी आंसर करिवो? Which is the right answer? Why you are taking time? It is a French poetry because England maximum influence France ro poduthala. It is the French poetry which influenced the British poems. So for Matthew Arnold, dash centuries are the seed time of all modern language and literature. A, 9th and 10th century, B, 12th and 13th century, C, 14th and 15th century, D, none of the above. It is the 12th century. 12th and the 13th century, that is the origin of all modern language and literature. Then the 14th century, Chaucer. Then the Europe, Sabbu jagare, it is mostly it is the 12th and the 13th century. Identify from the following the master of Dante. Brunetto Latini, A, B, Saint Beuve, D, C, Cadman, D, Pellisson. It is Brunetto Latini who was the tankara sethile like kon I should say godfather bhaliya, guardian bhaliya Dantenkara. Whom Matthew Arnold calls the well of English undefiled? A, Chaucer, B, Gower, C, Spencer, D, Milton. Arnold कही नांती. The question is, तमे देखो जेतको ये देखो, आको किए कहिसंती? Who said the well of English undefiled? जो माने मो क्लास करछो, मो फर्स्ट क्लास रे कहिछि, एज ऑफ चॉसर रे. Who said this? Who said the well of English undefiled? আজি जीव Google रे study of poetry text ताकू देखिबो. The study of poetry text आकू Edmund Spencer Chaucer को कहिथिले. The well of English undefiled. Well of English undefiled. A study of poetry jete bela Arnold ei word to lekhichhanti say in within quotes lekhichhanti emtiya. Any literary work, any article tame lekhucha, research article lekhucha, तमे जड़ी आउ जनकर कोटेशन टाको यूज करछो तम आर्टिकल रे ताकू तमे सबु बेले विदिन कोटेशन मार्क लेखि विदिन कोट जेतल तम पाई जाउछो एनी लेखारु पाउछो ता माने that particular phrase is not by the writer, he has quoted somebody else. आ माने हला एटा तेनु स्टडी ऑफ पोएट्री आर्नल्ड लिखला बेले आकु कोटेशन भितर रखिछन. The well of English undefiled. तामाने एटा आर्नल्ड कर निजर व्यू नुहे. It was the view of Edmund Spencer. ताहाकु कहैछि ना, it is Chaucer. Option A is the right answer, Chaucer. But Arnold has not said this. Arnold Spencer कर statement को लिखिछन्ति. That is why study of poetry ताको quotation mark भितर रखिछन्ति. ताको से quotation mark भितर रखिछन्ति. Okay. So we have come to the end of study of poetry. एबे बुझिला ना नहीं? Tell me. Tell me. तमर जो तीनटा सरला preface to Shakespeare, preface to the lyrical ballads and the study of poetry, तीनटा जांको जो कराई पढ़ाई तला clear हैला ना नहीं? Tell me. आउ जदि clear न हैला जो मन को doubts रहिला, I cannot help. मु हाथ टेकी देबी, मु पारिबिनी से आउ further doubt clear करिबको मु पारिबिनी, कारण I have tried my best in the simplest possible language with very varied the present day examples. I have tried to explain it to you. ता सत्य जदि तमे न बुझी पारलो तुमको भगवान बुझेबे, जीव सरस्वती गणेश पाखु सेमान तुमको बुझे देबे. I will not, I can't. Now let us come to tradition and the individual talent. When and where was the tradition and the individual talent first published? सेदिन क्लास रे मु कहिछि, Monday class रे पूरा कहिछि. When and where was the tradition and the individual talent first published? It was an essay by T.S. Eliot. It was first published in the Egoist. का time टा है नहीं, it is 1919. Then it was published in the Sacred Woods in 1920. So it was first published in the Egoist, volume number 6, September or December issue रे edition रे इटा दीटा part रे बाहर था. First. Next, the essay is divided into how many parts? In the tradition and the individual talent, essay is divided into how many parts? It is divided into 3 parts. A1, B4, C3, D2. It is divided into 3 parts. Prathama part re Eliot talks about tradition. Second part re he talks about the theory of impersonality. Then the third part hochi conclusion. It is divided into 3 parts. The mind of the mature poet is compared with a dash. A, passive jar. B, metal container. C, active jar. D, platinum. Is option A. The mind of the mature poet is compared with a passive jar. Samane, all the ideas, all the impressions, all the experiences, feeling, emotion, jaha asila, सबु जाक तम माइंड रे रही जाइछि, randomly रहिछि. Poetry टा कोन? Poetry is just an organization of those ideas, feeling and emotion. जो randomly add said हेकि अछि ताको proper way रे poet रो mind रे organized हेकि रहिबो. Organized हेकि तापरे that feeling and emotion will undergo a kind of a change. So poet रो mind होछि गोटे प्रकार catalyst. It is a medium to express your thought and feeling. Your thought and feeling that undergoes a change in the mind of the poet. Ultimately, जो poem टा बाहरिबो, जो poetry जो product टा बाहरिबो, से product रे तमरो निजर feeling emotion कोनोसी place नाही, तार trace भी रहिबोनी सेठी. से poem तार निजर feeling, निजर emotion create करिवो. तमरो feeling emotion रो किछि त किछि नाही. That is called theory of impersonality. What makes the writer traditional? A, historic sense. B, consciousness of a limitation. C, knowledge of situation. D, knowledge of own position. It is the historic sense that makes the writer traditional. In tradition and the individual talent, Eliot, what does Eliot try to say? Eliot says, okay, no artist can stand alone. Ekutiata se asi rahi paribani. Whatever he is writing, past ancient writers, past writers, सेई मानकर influence ता ऊपर पड़ से जानी कि माने knowingly or unknowingly नुह, it unwittingly तम भितर से तमरो जोड़ा पढ़ी आगुरु सेगुड़ा का माइंड रे अछि. For example, तुमको जो कहूँ एक्सटेम्पर एसेटे लेख गोटे टॉपिक दिगला write an essay about the freedom struggle of India or the freedom of write an essay on human freedom. गोटे essay तुम धड़ धड़ जन कहला लेख तुम बसिल. So when you are sitting down to write your essays तो कौन भावुच स्कूल रे मु सोशल स्टडीज रे कौन कौन पढ़ी थी, हिस्ट्री रे कौन पढ़ी थी, सिविक्स रे कौन पढ़ी थी, तापर कॉलेज को आसी कौन कौन पढ़ी जहाँ सब माइंड रजिस्टर्ड होकर अच्छी से तुम चेष्टा कर ताको रिकलेक्ट करने माइंड रू बाहर कर आनिक कनेक्ट करने को चेष्टा. तो धीरे 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 व्हाई व्हेन हाउ हुज व्हिच ए गुड़ाक क्वेश्चन पचारला परे गुड़े आंसर बाहरी आसे मुंड. से आंसर टा कोठी थिला माइंड रे थिला आगुरु जोटा आगुरु पढ़िच 10 वर्ष तले कि 15 वर्ष तले पढ़िच. So similarly that helps you in writing that essay. So similarly what poet, any poet से जो पुराना जितक पोएट्स आगुरु पढ़ी से पोएट पढ़ी से आइडिया से थॉट सब जिनस माइंड रे अच्छी से गुड़ाक तुमको कोड़ा भल लगी कोड़ा भल लगे सब गुड़ाक तुम एंटायर थॉट प्रोसेस को इन्फ्लुएंस कर. So the tradition, the historic sense, going to the past, that is very much there in you. That influence, the influence of the past is very much felt in the present. So it is the historic sense. Lines from which of the following is quoted by Eliot? A. The Revenger's Tragedy. B. The Beggar's Opera. C. Othello. D. Macbeth. So in the tradition and the individual talent, Eliot refers to the Revenger's Tragedy by Thomas Middleton. Thomas Middleton को जो Revenger Tragedy ताकू सीए कोट करछंती to prove the value of tradition. Eliot has talked about which cantos of Dante's Inferno in this essay. Dante को Inferno को से कोट करछंती और को दिटा cantos को से थे करछंती. A. Cantos 5 and 6, B. Cantos 15 and 26, C. Cantos 7 and 10, D. Cantos 9 and 15. It is Cantos 15 and Cantos 26. Dante को दीटा कैंटो को से साइट करछंती. Who are the two tragic heroes Eliot mentions in this essay? This essay, since all the questions are from tradition and the individual talent, so this essay it means tradition and the individual talent. Now next, go play. Who are the two tragic heroes Eliot mentions in this essay? Let me see your answers. Who are the two? A. Othello, B. Agamemnon, C. both A and B, D. none of the above. So Eliot cites these two tragedies. Othello, Othello protagonist किए? Othello. Agamemnon by Aeschylus. Agamemnon टा the Greek tragedy. This was written by Aeschylus. Agamemnon को से करछंती. दीटा जाक प्ले आ दीटा जाक प्ले रो हीरो होचन प्रोटैगनिस्ट ओथेलो रो प्रोटैगनिस्ट इज ओथेलो एंड एगामेम्नन्स protagonist is Agamemnon. So answer should be both A and B. Option C is the right answer. Anyway, option C is the right answer. Now, in which context? It personal feeling, emotional feeling upare. This question is based on that, and in this context, Iliad refers to both Othello and Agamemnon. Othello re, who kills Othello kills Desdemona. Othello kon ta wife Desdemona ko suspect karikri having an affair. So Cassio sing affair achi boli he killed his wife Desdemona. Then Agamemnon kon kiye? Agamemnon hochi like Aeschylus tragedy. He was a Greek warrior. Agamemnon and Menelaus, they are two brothers. Understand? Tikki bhi mon rakha padibo. Agamemnon and Menelaus, they are two brothers. Semane di bhoni ki bahi thile. Menelaus Sparta ra king thila. So Agamemnon married Clytemnestra. How Menelaus bahi thile was married to the beautiful Helen of Troy. So Agamemnon ro wife thile wife is Clytemnestra. Menelaus ro wife thila Helen. Clytemnestra and Helen were two sisters. ये था किंग ऑफ स्पार्टा. हेलेन को पेरिस नहीं पड़ेला ट्रॉय रो प्रिंस जो में ट्रोजन वार ही थला. तो पेरिस होची ट्रॉय रो प्रिंस से हेलेन को धरी अपडेट कर दो उठेने की पड़ेला. तो देयर वाज द ट्रोजन वार. जो ट्रोजन वार रे आर होची एगामेम्नन रो वाइफ क्लिटेमनेस्ट्रा रो बहुत राग थिला कि तार गोटे विक्ट्री पे क्लिटेमनेस्ट्रा झियो को माने एगामेम्नन तो निज झियो को आम जदि नर बलि दिया जाए से ता झियो को सैक्रिफाइस करता बलि देइथला तार वॉर विक्ट्री पे. तो क्लिटेमनेस्ट्रा बहुत राग थिला एगामेम्नन ऊपर ता हस्बैंड पर राग थिला. प्लस शी वाज जहा मिथ कहे शी वाज इन लव विथ अ पर्सन एजिथस बल लोकटा थिला. तो जेतले एगामेम्नन फेरिछि ट्रोजन वॉर पर जीतिकरी आछि ग्रीस विक्ट्री हला सेतरे क्लिटेमनेस्ट्रा किल्ड एगामेम्नन ए रागरे मारथिला. शी हैड एन एक्स्ट्रा मैरिटल अफेयर विथ अनदर पर्सन प्लस तार झियो को से जो बलि देइथला एगामेम्नन सेति पे राग भी थिला तो से मार देला. सो एगामेम्नन वाज किल्ड बाय क्लिटेमनेस्ट्रा. इलियड इज सेइंग दिस जे ए जो प्ले दीटा जंक स्टेज रे होची Othello killing Desdemona and Othello ultimately dying. Agamemnon, the killing of Agamemnon by Clytemnestra. कई कहते Clytemnestra मारिची, कई कहते Clytemnestra रो lover Aegisthus मारिची. Anyway, जे भी मारो Agamemnon is killed. ए जो दी जनकर जो डेथ रे जो भले फीलिंग और इमोशन होची से सीन रे सही माने क्रिएट करछंती. एगामेम्नन एक्टिंग रे जो इमोशन बाहर ची ऑडियंस का इमोशन फीलिंग से सेटा समान. सेमती ओथेलो रो डेथ रे ओथेलो जो डेस्डेमोना भी मारुची से जो इमोशन टा लोकन को जो ओथेलो रो जो इमोशन आसुची सेम इमोशन ऑडियंस का भी रहउची. सेठी शेक्सपियर रो इमोशन संगे किछ लेना देना नहीं नॉर एस्केलिस का फीलिंग और इमोशन नो कोन से लेना देना. They are separate. The work of art is producing an emotion. The work of art is producing a feeling. जोटी personal emotion रो कौन सी role नहीं. So these two he cited in the context of theory of impersonality. केमिति these two emotion, the kind of an emotion, ये जो character दी जो stage रे दौचन देखौचंती, जो बाहर चीज emotion तांकर feeling टा, सेही feeling टा audience को भी similar feeling रोची. So तांकर जो character of feeling रो कौन has nothing to do with Shakespeare's feeling or with Aeschylus' feeling. जोटा कि theory of impersonality Eliot is trying to say that the poet's mind is just a medium. A matured poet रो mind टा होची just गोटे jar भलिया, passive jar टे भलिया. विभिन्न जिनस आसुची और सेटा गोटे catalyst भलिया, platinum जेमती गोटे catalyst है, सेमती it is just like a catalyst. Feeling emotion ता भीतर से organized है जीवो, हेकरी जो जिनसटा बाहरिला, जो product बाहरला, से product रे poet रो personal feeling emotion न थाए. से product रो निजर feeling emotion थाए. I think I have tried to make it very clear to you. Is it clear? Tell me. Is it clear or not? मते को yes or no गोटे को let me तुम पे एते परिश्रम मनस करूची for nothing. Is it clear? Theory of impersonality? Next, the mind of the poet is compared to which catalyst? A. Aluminium, B. Zinc, C. Platinum, D. Cadmium. The mind of the poet is compared to which catalyst? वो metal को से use करचंती, sulfur dioxide plus oxygen gives rise to, in the presence of temperature and pressure, and it is option C, platinum. Platinum acts as a catalyst. Shakespeare acquired more essential history from dash than most men could from the whole British Museum. Where did Shakespeare get most of his ideas from? A. Homer, B. Virgil, C. Dante, D. Plutarch. Next question. Shakespeare acquired more essential history from dash than most men could from the whole British Museum. A. Homer, B. Virgil, C. Dante, D. Plutarch. It is option D, Plutarch. Shakespeare got all the information from Plutarch. He says he got more essential history from Plutarch than most men could from the whole British Museum. Shakespeare गोटे लोकठु जत्ती के आइडिया पाई करी ताकू से जेमती इस्तेमाल करछन से आइडिया को अन्य लोक माने होल ब्रिटिश म्यूजियम रु भी सेती की पाइबे नाही. That shows गोटे लोकर माइंड सेंस ऑर्गन केते शार्प से एत्ती की जिंस रो बहुत किछि पाई परिबे, whereas आमे एत्ते गोटे जिंस रो एत्ती की पाई परिबानी. That is the difference between an artist, a genius and an ordinary person. ये इंटेलिजेंट पिलाटे तार मेमोरी बहुत भल थाए, आईक्यू भल थाए, तुमको जोड़ा 4 घंटा लगे कि 4 दिन लगे बुझिया पे से पिला 15 मिनट बुझियो. That is the difference between a genius and an ordinary mediocre student. So Shakespeare is that kind of a genius. ये अन्य mediocre average लोक माने सबस्टैंडर्ड लोक माने जोटा कि एंटायर ब्रिटिश म्यूजियम को बुली बुली जेती की आइडिया पाइबेनी, शेक्सपियर खाली प्लूटार्क रु सेटाटू बेसी आइडिया पाउतले. The final part of the essay begins with a paraphrase from A. Plato's Republic, B. Aristophanes' Clouds, C. Aristotle's De Anima and De Homer's Odyssey. The final part of the essay, ये आंसर टा को पूरा पूरी लास्ट जितेबले आसिला फाइनल कंक्लूजन रे Eliot says in theory that poetry is not turning loose of emotion but escape from emotion. Poetry is not turning loose of expression of personality but escape from personality. And he says that when Plato's Republic, it is option C is the right answer. It is Aristotle's De Anima, where anima means soul, human body and soul, where Aristotle speaks about it. So T.S. Eliot, while winding up his essay, Tradition and the Individual Talent, so he says that it is Aristotle's, he mentions Aristotle's De Anima. So, we have come to the end of जो चार्टा पढ़ाई था, the 4 chapters. Now gotte rehla Cleanth Brooks Language of Paradox. So all 4, now I believe, I assume, and I am sure, I should be sure that you have understood and you would be able to answer all the questions coming from Unit 5. से आंसर जदि न करि पारलो एंड तमे घरे जाई के अन्य MCQ को सब करिवो. But I have tried my best to explain all the 4 topics as lucidly as possible, as humanly possible. आप परे तुम जदि आउ कोटी आहुरी बुझिबा चाहिबो तो you go to Saraswati, go to Ganesha. They will explain it to you. So we have come to the end. Any queries, any apprehensions, any doubts, any questions? बस आउ 10 minutes भितर कहि दिया ता काम सरीबो. क्वेश्चन पचारा, क्वेश्चन पचाले मु जानिबि जे तमे एक्चुअली घरे पढुचो बा बुझिचो. बुझिबा के इच्छा कले बुझि परिबो. मनटा माइंड आउ कोड जगह खाली कानटा आउ कोड जगह थिले केबे केही बुझि परिबे. Let me. Do you have anything else to ask? Next, still कौन बुझिया बाकी रहेगा? Because poetry, Eliot कहते is not it. Wordsworth कहले कौन? Poetry is inspiration. Spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. Takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. So, Eliot is saying this is not inspiration. It is something organization. तम माइंड रैंडम जिनस सब अच्छी तमें गोटे सुंदर कि ऑर्गेनाइज करिकरी एपट सपट सब पॉइंट्स गुड़ा आनिकरी ताको ऑर्गेनाइज करिकरी सजेइकरी यू मेक अ पोएम. इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑफ आइडियाज ऑफ फीलिंग एंड इमोशन जोटा कि तम माइंड रे प्रोसेसिंग बेले पूरा ट्रांसफॉर्म होइकरी गोटे नुआ प्रोडक्ट बाहरिबो. जो पोएमटा बाहरिबो से पोएम रे तमरो पर्सनालिटी रे किछि ट्रेस भी से पोएम रे नथिबो. That is what he meant by theory of impersonality. The poet ro nijara feeling emotion ro joda ki Matthew Arnold. That is the reason why T.S. Eliot said Matthew Arnold is the first modern critic. Kahinki na because Matthew Arnold also talked about objectivity, no subjective analysis. Objectivity hoche main jinsa. Because तमें सब बेले देखो इन द जज ता कौन हुए सब देखा जो लेडीज आखिरा ब्लाइंड है आखिरे बंधा ही व्हाई बिकॉज दे शुड बी ऑब्जेक्टिव. से कोठी देखिबनी जे मोर पुओ ठिया हिची त ता अगेंस्ट मु जीबिनी से जते भूल करता आई विल नॉट पनिश हिम. नो, ही हैज टू, जज हैज टू बी एब्सोल्युटली ऑब्जेक्टिव. तार कहार प्रति पर्सनल लाइक्स की डिसलाइक्स रहबनी. तेणु धीरे धीरे आमे जते बेले 20th century के आसिलु 21st century के आसुचु we are becoming more, our analysis सब जिनस is becoming more and should be more and more objective. It should not be subjective. And subjective हेले biased हबो. तमर personal likes dislikes काम दबो. When a examiner is examining तम पेपर examine कला बेले से जदि कहीं की कोड वर्ड दिया जाउची कहीं की कोडिंग करा होची टेल मी कोडिंग एथि पई करा होची जे एग्जामिनर बा केही जानि परिबेनी ए खाताटा काहार गोटे कोड नंबर दिया होची जदि नाटा रहि जिवो सपोज से स्कूल रो बा से कॉलेज रो टीचर देखुची से जानि अरे ए पिला तो हमर पिला तो ऑटोमेटिकली तम भितरे टिके रहिबो inclination से पिला प्रति and you are not supposed to make subjective analysis evaluation, you are supposed to make very objective neutral evaluation. Then objectivity of anything is absolutely necessary. तमरा personal emotion likes dislikes to दूरे जिबा उचित. Be in a court of law, be as a evaluator, be as a teacher. When you are teaching in the class, you should objectively sabu pilanko address karibo. You cannot address ye collector of po, ye secretary of geo. I will give more importance to them. So then you become subjective, biased. Understand? So this is what Eliot talks about objectivity. And Matthew Arnold poetry analysis evaluation bhi kahichanti it should be a touchstone method, objective method. Simply compare karo, analysis karo. Take 3 lines from Milton, take 3 lines from, suppose from Philip Larkins, compare them. If it is equal to that, then Philip Larkins is a great poet. Sylvia Plath is a great poet. Jodi hei paruni, then they are ordinary poets, not great poets. Good poets, but not great poets. Because Arnold in study of poetry is saying, how to distinguish the best from the good. They call the best, worst or best with the difference. They call decently good. How best? Best to jane haba na. So best how decently good. Akku kinte differentiate karibo. So he gives you the touchstone method and the parameters. What is the subject matter? What should be the style? जो सब्जेक्ट नोच से अनुसार मैचिंग वर्ड्स भी यूज करिवो तम स्टाइल ऑफ राइटिंग भी सेमती रहिवो सेमती मिल्टन लिखले पैराडाइज लॉस्ट सब्जेक्ट होची इनिशियली मिल्टन पैराडाइज लॉस्ट लिखला को ही थॉट ऑफ राइटिंग अबाउट किंग आर्थर देन ही ड्रॉप्ड हिज आइडिया ना आर्थर ऊपर लिखिबिनी लेट मी टॉक अबाउट गॉड हाउ men came to being, how men disobeyed God, and how man, the fall of man and the restoration of man. fall hela pare kemiti se bhagwan kara grace paile again back asile to happiness and grace of God. He took such a huge difficult topic, so such a serious high standard topic sangare matching language bhi haba darkar, which Milton used the grand style. Then Paradise Lost by Milton used epic simile. Simile challa 2 page, 20 lines. Epic simile, grand style, subject matter ko matching style. So Arnold said that touchstone method same dekho. Subject matter kette, how serious it is, what is the style, then how much deep instruction it is giving and how much pleasure it is giving. तुमको pleasure, delight, entertainment देला बेले भी ता संगे संगे moral lessons भी दौथुबो. ये सब factor को देखी कि then you decide whether a poem is great or is a poem worth reading 5 times or not. Okay. So this is all for today. Agote rahila. We'll try to do it. Cleanth Brooks ro language of paradox Friday kardaba. Au tara 8-10 MCQs. We'll be finished. We'll be done with Unit 5. Okay. So thank you very much. See you on Friday.